I've been called boring by a number of people, and although those aren't the most pleasant words to hear, I'm glad that they were able to be honest and direct with me about their feelings. I'd rather have people who are super upfront and direct with me and risk hurting my feelings than people who only say things that they think I want to hear, or not saying anything at all and even censoring themselves so that they don't hurt my feelings. By society's standards, I am pretty boring. I am quiet, I've always been. I am not naturally funny. I can't really think of jokes on the spot or have a witty response to something that someone says. I can't bring myself to embarrass myself in front of an audience by breaking out in a dance move or singing out of tune. In today's society, for someone to be considered fun or have a personality, that person needs to be basically the opposite of everything I am. They have to be loud, they have to be super funny, and they have to act as crazy as possible. Being quiet was one of my biggest insecurities growing up. I received so many comments about how quiet I was, and although most of those comments were neutral, I interpreted them as negative comments. Sometimes the comments were outright negative, sometimes they were positive, so I received mixed messages on whether being quiet was a good thing. For my Chinese grandparents, they saw my quietness as a good thing because wealthy families back in the days were very posh and quiet. Scholars were also known to be super quiet. They liked being in quiet places because it allowed them to think without distractions. They would move from the cities to the countryside so that they have more quiet places to think. Being quiet is not a trait that is super praised in American society, and you can see this in the classroom. In China, students are expected to sit still and listen to the teacher and not say a single word during their lecture. In the American classroom, students are encouraged to participate and raise their hands. I lost so many participation points because every time I raised my hand to participate in class, my heart would start racing and my cheeks would flush red. And it wasn't until my junior year of college that I was finally comfortable participating in class. I was finally able to raise my hand without my heart racing and my cheeks becoming red. My GPA could have been a few points higher had I simply participated more in class. I have gotten more comfortable with being quiet and accepting my quietness. One thing that really helped was this book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. This book made me realize that there are other quiet people out there, which should have been an obvious thing, but it just didn't register with me for some reason. And not only are there quiet people out there are successful quiet people. I used to think that you had to be super loud and extroverted for you to be successful. Success defined in terms of fame and monetary wealth. This book was very encouraging and made me realize that I did not have to fit that mold to be successful. There was also a time in which a friend was going through a stressful situation, and she said that being in my quiet presence helped her relax and calm down. That was the first time anyone told me that my quietness had a positive impact on them. I don't know if she remembers telling me that, but I certainly do, because it was one of the first times that I felt like I was appreciated for my quietness. I used to think that people who talked a lot were very eloquent. I really admired them because I could not understand how a person could talk on and on and on without running out of things to say. As I've gotten older, I've realized that some people talk a lot, but they actually don't say much. I used to also be afraid of not being able to find a life partner because that person might just get bored of me or get tired of being in my presence. Now I know that I will find someone someday who will appreciate my boringness, my quietness, whatever you want to call it. I used to also feel responsible for whether other people were having a good time when they were with me or when they were at an event that I invited them to. If they were not having a good time, I took it personally, and I felt like that was a reflection of who I was. I thought that I wasn't good enough. I thought that I wasn't fun or interesting enough for me to be around them. I have since let go of that mentality. I am not responsible for entertaining anyone, and if someone does not like being in my presence, then they can leave and we can part ways. I feel like I was pushing myself down to elevate others up, and I don't think it's fair to myself. There are definitely things that I need to work on to become a better human being, to become more fun and more interesting, but being quiet is not a flaw that I need to fix. Being bored is viewed as such a negative thing in our society. My current mentality is that being bored is such a privilege. Being bored means that you're not fleeing your home country because of war. It means that you don't have a family member in the hospital that is fighting for their life. It means that you're not overwhelmed with responsibilities. Ideally, you would be somewhere between being super bored and being overwhelmed with responsibilities or even tragedy. But I think that it's better to be bored than to be overwhelmed with responsibilities. Because if you're super bored, then you have the option of choosing which responsibilities to assume. Whereas if you're overwhelmed with responsibilities, you do not have that option. Those responsibilities that you have might be responsibilities that you didn't ask for, and they might be responsibilities that are very stressful to bear. This does not mean that I don't complain about being bored. I have just been complaining about being bored because I was quarantined for 2 weeks, but when I catch myself complaining, I try to remind myself that being bored is such a privilege to have.
And I had a baby.